Hello and welcome to this quick tutorial on how to make a multiplayer controller with Bolt networking. Bolt networking is a new library that I've been using. It's currently in beta and I think it has some really cool features. We're also going to be setting up a StrangeIoC inversion of control or dependency injection container for Unity. And we're also going to be using Aaron Granberg's A-Star Pathfinding project. I have the pro version of A-Star Pathfinding project, but the free version has all the same equivalent features. So for this tutorial, you're welcome to use that as well. StrangeIoC is also free. It's available if you just Google StrangeIoC, and I'd really recommend it. We don't have to use it in our app or any app, but I think that dependency injection is a really cool feature to have. So first things first, we're going to create some context or basically the start point of a Strange application. I'm going to make a new folder called Rogue. I'm really interested in roguelike games, but it may be in 3D I think would be more interesting. So for this demo I decided that I'm going to put everything under the Rogue namespace. Anyways, we're going to create two scripts here, the context, the Rogue context, and the Rogue context view. Oops. So the context view is basically the start point of the application. And all we're going to do is inside the awake function, we're going to, well, first of all, we need to inherit from the base class context view inside the Strange namespace. So this has a property called context, and we're going to make it into a new Rogue context. And then we're going to go ahead and create a Rogue context. Now this one inherits from something called the MVCS context, which stands for Model View Controller Service Context, and that's like an architecture that Strange recommends that you be using. So for this tutorial, we need to build we need to do two things here. We need to build constructors, but first I'm going to show you the override that we need to do, which is called map bindings. And this is the heart of a Strange application, and I'm going to show you two things you can do here that are both really useful. So the first thing we have inherited from the base context class is the injection binder, and binding is like the core of what you get through an IOC container. So what we're going to do is we're going to say bind iGame service to a simple game service. And what does that do for us? Well, we're going to see later, but basically the iGame service is an interface where you provide some methods for an external service. Like if you're using Bolt, for example, or if you're using Photon, or if you're using SmartFox server, or any of the Unity networking services, you want to wrap all that into an interface with a defined set of methods and just plug it in through here. And something that we can do is with this binding add to singleton. And basically what that means is that the injection binder is going to handle taking care of the creation of this simple game service instance. And it's going to map it to a singleton, and wherever we use iGame service in a way where we mark it with an inject attribute in another class, we're gonna get that singleton simple game service injected into our application. So we need to make those, but first I'm going to show you one more thing, which is what we can do with the command binder. So instead of binding to an interface, we can bind to a special set of, well, actually you can bind to any string or enumeration that are like a set of events. So Strange comes with this context event enumeration, and it only has one event, which is start. So we bind start to a rogue, we'll say start app command. And that comes from a command class, which we're also going to create. And what is happening here is that when we start the context like this, we're going to map the bindings here, and then when this is done, Strange will fire off a context event start to the main context event dispatcher. And you'll see, but there's a special way to get that and to listen on it, and also handle the events off of the main event dispatcher from anywhere. But what this command binder does is whenever it watches the main event dispatcher, and if it sees any context event start, it's going to fire the start app command. So let's go ahead and create that in a new commands folder. Start app command. And we're going to also make a strange services folder, just so that we can get rid of these using directive errors. So iGame service and simple game service. But let's start with the command. Start app command inherits from command. Ooh. Something that's from the strange extensions command implementation namespace. Anyways, one thing I noticed is that my IntelliSense menu is not showing up in my recordings. I don't know why. I'm using Open Broadcaster software, and it's giving me a bit of trouble with this. I apologize for that, but I haven't figured out how to solve that yet. So I'll just try and make it really explicit when I do something that you might not be able to see. Anyways, command has an override that we get to use called execute, and execute is essentially the start of the command. So we might send ourselves a debug message saying start app. Oops. And we'll just get that sent to our log whenever the start app command executes. So to reiterate, the rogue context view is a mono behavior that we're going to attach to a simple game object called rogue context. Rogue context. So we have a rogue context object, and it holds a rogue context view. The rogue context view on its awake method creates a new rogue context and fires its start method. The rogue context binds all of its mappings and binds the start app command to the context event start. When the event dispatcher listens and finds the context event start, we will create a start app command and execute its execute method, and we'll get this log statement. Now the last thing we need to do before we can do that is to it doesn't like that. Oh, we don't have this in our namespace. That's one reason. So it doesn't see it. Okay, that's good. And I think that looks pretty good. One more thing we need to do here is actually add some constructors. So, sorry. We need to pass in two properties. One is the mono behavior context view, and the second is something called automap. These are passed to the base class, like so. And this is called auto mapping. It has to do with whether or not you want your injections automatically added. I don't ever see a reason not to have automap as true, but anyways. And then we want to pass this and true into the constructor of our rogue context. So that'll pass us the context view mono behavior you can see if you go to the definition that this is a mono behavior, and that'll pass that and auto mapping to true to the rogue context base class. So that is everything we want to do for the context. And now let's see if we get our debug message. There we go, we started our app, so that's fantastic. Now I'm just going to take a quick break, and for the next video we'll go on to implementing our first service.